Hello, hello. My guest today is Alicia Daniels, a television and film industry veteran with over 15 years experience as a member of the Directors Guild of America. She's worked on P-Valley, The Pink. Can't wait to talk about that. She worked on Cobra Kai. She's worked on Greenleaf, Creed, The Oval, The Have and the Have Nots, and so much more. Most recently, she's become a unit production manager, which is huge. Go Black girl, go. Yet somehow she still finds the time to mentor those wanting to work in film and television. To that end, she's launched the Assistant Director Team Workshop, an elite set of workshops that provide proper training and guidance to individuals looking to navigate the film industry. Please welcome to Intimate Details with Dr. Tiff, Alicia Daniels. Hi.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
I'm so excited to be doing this interview with you. We've kind of noodled over this idea for a few weeks, and I'm so glad to finally have you here. Alicia's she just has a wealth of experience, a lot of knowledge in film and television, and part of why I wanted to talk to you and have you talk with our audience is like I know what this industry is like from my perspective. As an intimacy coordinator, as someone who does sensitivity work and mental health counseling and things like that on set. And then having worked on the other side of things, this is what you do as a UPM is, I think it's kind of a position that from the outside looking in, people don't know a lot about. So I definitely wanted you to talk about that. I wanted you to talk about mentoring. I want to talk to you about balance and how we do this, because I think that's one thing as women we all are trying to find is a better sense of balance, and in this industry it is really hard to do. So definitely want to get to that, but first, I really don't think that there's a way around talking with you today and not addressing the elephant in the room. At the time of this recording, WGA, the Writers Guild Association or Writers Guild of America, has been on strike since May 2nd. SAG-AFTRA, my union, has been on strike since July 14th. I know that DGA avoided a strike, right, by getting their negotiations done. Tell for those people who aren't in the industry and are aware that these strikes are happening but don't quite know why or what they're striking for. What's your take on it? What's your perspective on what's going on right now? Why is everyone striking?
Oh, well, that's such a great question because it is like a different time. I think the last time both unions went on strike was the 60s, like in
Mm-hmm.
1960s. So it's like a standstill. And so both unions are striking mainly because of the unknown that they agreed to 3 years ago, which is streaming services. So we didn't know what Netflix and Amazon Studios, Apple, like any streaming service, we didn't know what those residuals will look like, what the fee should be given back to actors and writers and director guilds of America members. But now that we have more data and we're seeing that cable is slowly becoming obsolete and so many more people are tuning to the streaming services and they're using their own content versus just content made for,
Mm-hmm.
primetime TV, it's like, well, now you need to reevaluate the numbers that we agreed to before for our residuals, which means a check that actors, writers, Directors Guild of America members that we get after a show airs. So it's like you're not working, but you still get a check. So
Right.
that check they want more, which is understandable. But so I just think that we all have to come to a common medium and understand that while this is something that everyone deserves more, we do have to realize that we can't be greedy. Like, because if the writers get, let's say 50% more. So that means the actors need 50% more. That means so then it's like if one gets it, then everybody else gets it. And that may be the hesitation from the producer standpoint. Because if do we have enough to give everybody what they're looking for? And still, of course, this is entertainment, but it is a business. So
Mm-hmm.
still make their money on the business aspect. So that's the main thing there I'm striking for, but also this new thing called AI,
Yes.
and nobody wants AI to take our jobs, me
Right.
included.
Right.
We see how much it's like taking over. So they want clauses, writers and actors that want clauses in those contracts to say, an AI cannot replace a physical person and things of that nature. So I'm
And if
hoping
it
that.
does, if my
Mhm,
likeness is replaced, or if my
mhm,
voice, the audio of my voice
right.
is replaced, that I'm fairly compensated for you
For.
using. So I think what a lot of people don't get is that our voices, our likeness, our bodies have been we're out there on the internet, right? If anyone
Hmm.
wanted to look up, let's say, for lack of a better example, a Samuel L. Jackson, you know, I want to know who Samuel L. Jackson is. I could just type his name in online and find, 50 some movies that he's, acted in. I can hear his voice in commercials. I can hear all of that is online. And so if I wanted to type into AI, create a 15-minute commercial on these glasses using Sam Jackson's voice, it could technically do it. And Sam Jackson never sees a dime, even though we have the cadence and the richness of his voice that is distinct to
Hmm.
Samuel L. Jackson. That is what they're fighting for in terms of AI, for you not to be able to reuse me who's already online. Like it's there. We weren't thinking about this. Sam wasn't thinking about this in his first, second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth movie that he did, but it's all out there. And they're really fighting hard for those things not to be used without their consent, and certainly without being compensated.
Right. And that's a great point that you use because I just literally watched an episode of Black Mirror, the first episode, and that is like, it's called Jane is Awful or Somebody is Awful.
Hmm.
But for your viewers, if you guys watch that, you'll see they took a ordinary person's life and made it a TV show using Selma Hayek, but Selma Hayek wasn't really acting in it. It was just her likeness. But she really
Hmm.
wasn't doing it was all AI. And it was amazing that it's already
Yeah,
like showing you how it
it
can
can be
be done.
done. And that's
Hmm.
why they are so diligent, and that's why they're out on the picket lines right now, because it's not just a thought that this could happen. It could actually happen. It could actually
Hmm.
happen. Um, you know, it strikes me, I guess, how do you I have so many questions about this, so many questions. As you can tell. How did we get here? Because the DGA also had contract negotiations around the same time, and you guys were able to avoid a strike and come to terms with the AMPTP, the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers. From your perspective, what made, and I know it's a totally different entity, but what made the contract negotiation so different for your union?
I think the thing that made the contract negotiations so different for our union was that our union is a compass of so many different jobs. So it's not just a director, it's a unit production manager, it's an assistant director, first assistant, key second, second assistant director, stage managers, associate directors, production associates. All these people have different things that they bring to the table and different wants and different needs. So in our negotiating committee, I think it was about 80 people. So they were mixed up into all those different roles. And so we had someone negotiating for Juneteenth as a paid holiday, and that was an African American. And they could tell that from their perspective, like why it's important. And then we had someone from the second ADs talk about why we need an less hours because we're overworked, but to hear it from their perspective and not just
Mhm.
from a director reading it off of a paper like, hey, the second ADs want this, but it's not that director doesn't understand because they're not going through it. So we had
Right.
people
Right.
that like were physically attached to the things we were asking for. And also, I think because they're directors mostly, we know how to negotiate. We know how to work for the overall good. So we know that we're not going to get everything we want. We didn't get everything we want, but we've got so much more gains than we've had since forever, including a parental leave fund that's going to be started. And I'm like, where was that at 10 years ago when I
Yeah.
could have used
Yeah.
it? But like I say that to say, we have so many different voices. And I think the producers relate more when it's like, um, when they just can feel it, like when they can
Mhm.
just feel like the story, like, hey, I almost fell asleep driving home because I worked so long.
Yeah.
And yes, everybody works a 12-hour day, but the second ADs, we have to come in before, we have to
Yep.
stay after, and this is what we have to do, and this is why we should be compensated or have less hours. I don't really want the
Yes.
extended day. Yes, that's great that you guys give us an extra day's pay for working 16 hours, but I would rather get off
Yeah.
earlier
Exactly. I would
and
rather
not do that.
sleep.
You
Yes,
just
and
sleep
not drive at two
and
o'clock,
not
3 o'clock in
drive.
the morning after having
Exactly.
worked the 16 hours. Yeah, for sure.
Exactly. And that's why now our deal is we after 15 hours we get an extended day. And that has never happened. Like, and so it's like, great, maybe we're gonna get off early. We're not even looking for the extended day. We're just looking to get off
Yeah,
early. So I say, and with the SAG and Writers Guild, most of everyone is doing the same job. So everything that they want is like the same across the board for all members. And so it's like when you think our DGA maybe has like 12,000 members and like a third, two-thirds are directors. So it's like if we give this, it's only affecting this amount. Whereas mostly the SAG is actors, like everything they negotiate is going to affect all of you guys,
everyone.
all of your
Everyone.
members. And same thing with the writers, it's going to affect all of you guys.
Yeah.
And it's not like we can compartmentalize what we give and how much we give to this group because it affects your whole group. And again, they know that writers are, going to get it, actors are looking, and they were strategic. For those who don't know, the writers, the DGA usually goes first, but we let the writers go first because we knew they had more to fight for, right? We knew that they were needed more
Mhm.
time, and we wanted, that's why they started in May, and their contract
Yeah.
technically didn't end. I mean, they started before May, so their contract was up first, and then we went, and then we almost striked. We were like a day over
Yeah.
in our
Yeah.
negotiation, so SAG started later, and so it was very like strategic. That's why I think we came out, because when I heard the stories, when I heard the person that voted for Juneteenth and the way he compelled it and how they tried to push back and then he pushed back, it was just like I was like, wow, I would have given that to you too, because they were like, we'll give you Juneteenth, but you can't have Good Friday, or you can't have this holiday. You can't. They were like, wait, so you want us to choose between this and that? And then the way they said it, it was just like, of course not. Like, let's just
Yeah.
give it to you, because
Yeah.
you're negotiating, right? You're
Yes.
making your
Yes.
point, and it's
Yeah.
not just emotion, it's fact.
It's
So
fact.
that's one of the things I
And,
think helped
from
us.
my perspective, the fact is we all need to, and I think this is a climate across the board that we're all, especially coming out of this pandemic, we all recognize, we're starting to recognize more of our worth and our contributions to our jobs and employment,
Mhm.
and understanding that I need to be able to support myself. And if my job is, if the type of work that I've chosen to do isn't supporting me in the way that I need to be supported, then I need to figure something has to change. Either I have to change, I have to go somewhere else and find more work or different work, or my employer needs to understand what the needs of its employees are. And I think in across the board in different industries, we've all kind of come out of the pandemic recognizing that. But my biggest question is like, really, what's the end game? Because many of us, and you and I think discussed this a couple weeks ago, many of us read that article on Deadline where a studio executive was quoted as saying that the end game is to allow things to drag on until union members, speaking of the WGA at this point, that until union members start losing their apartments and losing their houses. And that shook me to my core, because
Mhm.
now you're trying to kick folks while they're down. You're trying to leave them destitute. You're in that statement. To me, it felt as though you don't even care about the fact that a writer is having to work 4 and 5 jobs just to make a basic living, and still not making enough to have health care benefits. I think
Mhm.
their minimum threshold is like what, 46,000 a year in order to be able to access healthcare benefits. For SAG-AFTRA, for me, is 26,000. I've been a member of SAG-AFTRA since 2011. I've probably been able to hit the threshold for um, for insurance benefits probably about 5 or 6 times.
Mm,
So the majority of the time that I've been a member, I haven't had. And now, Mama works about 15 jobs. Okay, so I've had
mhm,
opportunities to get healthcare in other places, or my husband has worked. So it's fine. We figure it out. And right now, I'm under Cobra for SAG-AFTRA because I didn't hit the threshold for the last year, right?
mhm,
So we figure it out, but the point is, just because someone is working and working 2 or 3 shows and even working a hit show does
mhm,
not mean that they're making the money that I think the general public thinks that they're making. And then for a studio executive to say something like, we're fine with them not making any money. We can, they can lose their
mhm,
houses. It's fine. They'll come back. The audacity of that statement to me, as someone who does have other options, who has multiple degrees and can go out and work in a lot of different industries, this is the one that I choose, right? The audacity to think that I can't pick up my bag and go work somewhere else. I will go work at Starbucks, okay? If I
right,
have to. Not that Starbucks
right,
is good or bad company, but I can go somewhere else and find a job. But it's the narcissism of thinking that these people, these talented, creative, innovative individuals can't go out and get work somewhere else, that at some point they're going to come groveling back to work for the pennies that they're gonna take it and they're gonna
mm.
like it. That's what I took from that statement. How did that statement sit with you?
Wow, that's a good perspective. When I heard that statement, I didn't look at it as like they can't work anywhere else. I looked at it from a negotiator standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
And one quote that I won't say her name on here, but a big
Mm-hmm.
showrunner told me when I asked what's the
Mm-hmm.
best advice she was ever given. She said, "Never enter a negotiation you're not willing to walk away from."
Mm-hmm.
And so that when I heard that,
That's
it's like
great.
they are putting themselves in the upper hand in the negotiating battle. So if
When you
they
say
don't let
they, when you
the
say they, who do you
producers,
mean?
the
Okay.
producers. So
Okay.
by them saying we want to stall until you need to lose your homes, I hopefully don't think that they really want them to lose their homes. I think that they want them to be so desperate that they'll take what they're offering and then we'll all get back to work. That is what I read from that because I was looking at it as a negotiator mindset. It's like if
Mm-hmm.
we stall out this long and now you're like desperate, you're like, I need to just get back to work. I need to get my show because not
We
it's not
have
just for
to,
me, it's for other people.
for everyone.
Right. So then now
Yeah.
we are back at the table, which is why no one's at the table right now, ironically, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
there's some kind of stall. So when
Yeah.
we get to the table, you're going to be more likely to listen and you're going to be
Mm-hmm.
more likely to take what we're offering with maybe a little pushback, but it won't be as big of a fight as you had in May because in May, the writers enter the
Because now you
negotiation.
hungry. Now you won't
Now
have
you're
food on the
hungry.
table. Now you don't have a
Exactly.
place to live. So you're
In
gonna
May
just
they
take
had
whatever
something
I
to
give you.
lose. They could enter
Mm-mm.
the negotiation because
Mm-mm.
they were willing to walk away, which they did. But
Yeah.
now I don't think they're willing to walk away. And I have a friend who's a writer and
Mm-hmm.
she asked me how's this affected me and I'm like, "Are you ready for this to be over or are you want to keep going?" She's like, "I'm ready for it to be over." And I wish more people would be honest with that because she is striking for the future, but at the same time she
Right.
knows that she needs to continue to work
Here's
or
the thing.
create.
I think both things can be true
Mhm.
simultaneously. I am absolutely ready for this to be over, but I also,
Know what you're worth.
yes. And I know what these talented and creative broadcasters, actors, just everyone, I know what we're all worth. And I know I have an idea. I have an idea of what's being brought in as well. And I
Mhm.
think there probably is more leeway and more negotiating that absolutely can be done. Um, but I also think, in terms of worth, in terms of what we bring to the table, there are some things that are just going to be non negotiable
Mhm.
on both sides. On both sides. There are going to be some things that are non negotiable, but I am in support of those who are striking right now and for them to get exactly what they feel like they need in order to sustain themselves, sustain their families. Um, I hate that those thresholds. I think probably the insurance is the one thing that I'm like, dude,
Yeah.
it's really tough. People don't understand. I saw an interview yesterday with an actor. And this is the thing. I don't know this actor's name, couldn't tell you, but I know, and we all know these types of actors where we see them in everything. Like this
Hmm.
person, they've been on SVU, they've been on, Criminal Minds, they've been on the soap opera, they've been on this, but we just don't know
Hmm.
their names. But we've seen them in so many different things, and we think of these people as quote unquote working actors, like they always on something, they always got a gig.
Right, right.
However, it's interesting when you start to think about how many shows they've been on, how much they might be making just to have that appearance, and then ask them, are they meeting their minimum requirements to even get health insurance? They might be working, but they may not be making enough to qualify. They may not be making enough to qualify, and that's what they're asking for. They're
Mm.
asking to be able to make enough to support themselves and their families, and I'm never
That's
not going to support that.
that's
Never
fair.
not going to support that.
And you said that yours is 26. I think the DJ's is like 33 or 34. So
Yeah.
SAGs does currently have the lowest threshold. Maybe that's where they're looking at it.
Mhm.
But a lot of actors don't work every day, like
Yeah.
whereas a writer is on a show, for a length of time. Same thing with an AD member.
Yeah.
We're on shows longer. So
Yeah.
that is, actors have to bounce around. So I could see that.
Yeah. 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 It's a lot of little nuances, and I know I
Mm.
can't begin to even say that I know all the things that are going on in the negotiations and what, every entity is fighting for. But I think that I just want what's fair for people, and I want
Hmm.
them to be able, because I really feel with my whole heart 99.9% of everyone that is striking right now wants to get back to work, but they don't want to work in these conditions.
Conditions.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they don't want to
And
work on the current conditions.
they always get something after every strike. So
Yeah.
they will get something.
Yeah.
We just don't know how long it's going to
We just
take
don't. Yeah, and I hope it
for
doesn't. I
that to,
mean, we're all out. I mean, listen, we all out of work out here,
yeah.
and it's not even us. Like our hair and makeup, our costumers,
Hmm.
those who do set design, and like it's affecting so many different people that
Right.
aren't even a part of this strike. They can't work, or they're having to find something else. But again, they can go out and find work
Okay.
in other places. And that's the
Yeah.
thing. You can't ever think that someone, especially when their back is to the wall, that they won't go do what they need to do to
Right.
help themselves, to help their families. That I can get up right now and go work somewhere else. This is where I choose to work. This is where I want to work. This is where I feel fulfilled and I need to.
Hmm.
But don't think I can't walk away. What you won't do. Because it feels
What you
like, you
won't
know
do.
what? Yeah, exactly. As a woman, like the union stuff aside, as a woman, like it feels like, oh, you're trying to control me with money. Oh,
Mm.
you're not gonna do that. I will never let you do that. Never. My
Hmm.
daddy, oh no. My daddy nor my mama
Hmm.
they taught me, no, ain't nobody gonna have $5 over your head, okay? Expecting you to do whatever they tell you
Whatever.
just because they have, no, you have your own.
Yep.
And
Exactly.
we can make it happen. We can
Mm.
absolutely make it happen for ourselves. And as a union, we can make that happen too. So I'm gonna get off of that because I could stay on that forever. And that ain't why you here. That's not why you came. That's not why you came. Let's talk about your work now as a UPM, a unit production manager, but specifically just like as an AD. How are there a lot of, because I'm gonna say no, right? Are there a lot of assistant directors, black female assistant directors out there? Because I feel like you're a bit of a unicorn.
And you know what? Like to me, perspective is all about what you see, like what
Yeah.
you see. And I'm like, I know a lot, but that's because I'm involved in a lot of like, I'm
Yes.
involved in the DGA African American Steering Committee or the
Yeah.
Diversity Committee, and I see it.
Right.
But we are a very small percentage when I go to like the big DGA meetings, it's like,
Yeah.
okay, it's not as many as I
Yes.
thought. But when I'm thinking of hiring, I always think about who I know, and they're in turn African
Yeah.
American. So there's not as many. There's more
Yeah.
ADs that are African American, and
Yes.
the way I became an AD, like I got into this program that was specifically called as the Directors Guild of America. Ironically, it's with the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers. So both of them created
Yes.
this program, and they selected in my year, it was like 1,000 of us that applied, and only 14 were selected. And it was
Okay.
created because of people like myself. It's like they wanted to give opportunity to people that would not normally have this opportunity. And so in my class, out of the 14, it was like two or three, including myself, other African Americans, and the rest were Caucasians or other races or like more females. But now, as a UPM and as a Black female UPM,
Mhm.
when we're looking to see like who are other Black female, it's like I could probably count it on my hand. There's a
Yeah,
lot
you
of
know
Black,
them.
yeah,
Yeah.
I know them or I've heard of them. And it's
Yeah.
like, it's a lot of Black female producers because let's be real, anyone can produce because you can do your own stuff, right? You can go
Mhm.
and get it. But when you are in the DGA, it's a difference because you actually had to get your days. So when I look at,
Yeah.
because I know a lot of Black female producers or I've heard of them, but when I look at the UPMs, everyone's like, I didn't know there was that many. Like all I see are white males, and I'm like, really? But then I'm like, you know what? I never had a Black UPM hire me. I've
Mhm.
had Black producers, but I've never had
Yeah.
a Black female UPM that showed me that they came up, through
Yes.
the ranks. And like, yeah, it's like being in an army. I tell people, like, in boot camp, you hate while you're going through it. You may be like, this is horrible. I hate all these early wake ups. I hate these push ups. But when you're done, you're like, I love my USA. And so while I was going through that, I like hated it. I'm like, this is so hard. I want to quit because I had just got out of college. I literally got into this program the month after I got out of college. Like, so
Mm.
it was from what was I, 21? And then, now like bam, real world, real like hours and stuff. So
Mm.
now, because I feel like I got my stripes, which I did, it makes
Yes. Yes.
this way more, appealing because, like they say, to whom much is given, much is also required. So
Mhm.
because I was so much was required of me, I feel like that's why I'm blessed with what I've been given, and which is to be in this industry at this level.
Yeah. So many people haven't heard of a UPM. They've heard of a director or a producer and maybe an assistant director. But there are so many positions and so many different things, and this is why I love. And we'll get to your workshop. But there are so many different positions that people just don't even know exist, so they don't know what to aspire to.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about what you do as a UPM, what that means, and why that position is so critical on a TV or film set.
Absolutely. So a UPM and a producer or a line producer are kind of like one and the same.
Hmm.
The line producer oversees the budget with the help of the UPM to oversee the below the line crew. That includes hiring department heads. Like we may not hire the costumer that puts the clothes on the actors, but will hire the costume designer. And then the costume designer there in turn hires their crew,
Brings in their
hiring
crew.
like the director of photography, and then they pick their, camera team. So we hire all like department heads and we vet them. And we also negotiate their deals and their box kits, which a box kit is similar to like a computer rental for like you or I, but for others, it could be a
Hmm.
Steadicam rental.
Yeah.
We negotiate things with vendors, so all the equipment you see, like it doesn't just show up. The crew gets us like bids, and then we like see if we like that, then we try to get the price down. Everything is always a price.
Yeah.
Everything is a price. Like that's what I say. It's entertainment, but it is a
Yes.
business first. And
Yes.
but most importantly, we are like kind of like not therapist, but kind of therapist because we have to manage people. Someone asked me the
Yes.
other day, like, what's the hardest part of my job? And I was like, it's honestly managing people because
Yeah.
I could have two intimacy coordinators on set. I could say one thing to you, Tiffany, like, hey, Tiffany, I can't have you on for the rest of the week, even though I know that's what we booked, but things change. And you'd be like, okay. But then I can go to Sarah and I'd be like, I have to phrase it a whole different way. Like, Sarah, like, you're really great at your job. Like, I really appreciate what you're doing. But
Sarah need to be coddled.
exactly, exactly. So the same thing, but I have
Yes.
to say it two different ways because if I
Yeah.
say it one way, you're going to take offense and all this stuff. So that's like the main thing that I think that is hard is managing people and managing their
Yeah.
expectations because everybody wants, but we have to realize not just to give them what they want, but to give them what they need. And because people like they think film has a lot of money, TV has a lot of money, so we're going to ask for this technocrane for 10 days, but it's our job to really decide, do you need it for 10 days or can you do it for 5? Does that scene really need a technocrane, which is an expensive camera equipment?
Hmm.
Or can you just like do it for 5? So we always have to figure out your needs from your wants because if we gave you everything you asked for, we would be in a worse
Yeah.
position than we are now with the
Yeah.
strikes.
Yeah, and it sounds like there is just hearing you talk and how you're thinking through all of the asks that you get. It sounds like this is the reason. This is how you get your stripes. This is why you had to get your stripes so that you can know all that goes into, making a production, what's
Yes,
necessary, what's not, what's needed, like why it's not needed, workarounds, options. Like this is how you get to where you are. The
exactly.
hard stuff.
The
Yeah.
hard stuff. Exactly. That's such a great point because, like, people always say, what's the ladder to success? It's like you literally do climb. No one just
Mhm.
picks you up and then you're
Mhm.
just bam. And sometimes that
Mhm.
may happen because you may have a
Yeah.
cousin or somebody you know, but the
Yeah.
ones I firmly believe, the ones that are just placed in a position, have a harder time in that position because they don't fully understand what the other people are doing because they were not those other people or they never had to learn it. It was just like handed to them. So for
Yeah.
those that actually work for it and actually like put in the stripes, like as a second AD, like not to toot my own horn, but I was a bomb second AD. Like I'm detailed like to a fault. Like a crew member is not gonna sneak one under me. Like even when I made an announcement that I was now a UPM, a crew member commented and was like, "You were always a UPM in my eyes," and it was because
Mm.
they respected me as such. Like when I asked the questions, it wasn't like, "What you asking this for?" But they knew that I knew what I was talking about. So
Yeah.
that's why they could give me the true answer. But if a crew member or a cast member thinks that you don't understand what you're talking about, they're gonna run you all over. Like if you're like,
Mhm.
well, why do you need 5 people? Like for example, one of my producers on the project said, "Oh, we could have 4 people in this wardrobe department. That's what I budgeted, but they want 11." And I'm like, "They absolutely do not need 11, but they absolutely do not need 4. Here is what we can, come to a middle
Mhm.
ground with because of what the needs are." And I broke it down like we can cross this position off because this is a dual position. It can a buyer and an assistant costume designer can be the same thing. Like so I was able to, I didn't just say, yes, you're right, this is due for it. Because I knew if you have 4, it's going to be a nightmare. Like, yeah,
Right.
you're looking at saving money, but how long will it take
Yeah.
those actors to change their clothes?
Right.
You're going to be
And you're
waiting on
thinking
set.
like that you're thinking like that person who has to deal with people. You got to deal with the
Exactly.
aftermath of only having 4
Exact.
people in this department. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
looking forward at, 6 to 8 weeks of filming and having to deal with all of the headache that's going to come with us
Yep.
understaffing this department. Got it.
Yep.
Got it. Got it.
Yeah, because I've been there because I've seen it. I've seen the producers and the UPMs negotiate with crews before. So it's like I always tell people, whether you're in this industry or not, but wherever you are, don't think that's the only place you're going to be, right? You got to know the job above you and above them. So you have to be
Yes.
paying attention. So when I was a DGA trainee, I was paying attention to my second AD. I was paying attention to how he talked to people, to how he moved. So much so that on the show called Greek that I did, it was my last DGA trainee show. My second AD wanted to bring me up as an AD. Like it was like, okay, we could say, bye, you're no longer a trainee. We can't afford you. Now you're making more money. But they said, nope, we're going to hire you and we're going to fire a PA to make space for you in the budget. And because I'm a
Wow.
good person, I'm like, let's not fire them. Let's work this out. But we worked it out, but he did it because I made myself invaluable, because I took the time to understand his plights. I understand what
Mhm.
his like hardships were, and I try to make his job easier. So if you can make someone's job easier, not that you're going to do their job, but if you
Right.
understand their job, you make their job easier, and which is what my workshop does, which is why I created it because I wanted people to understand what I do. I don't want you to me to tell you like, hey, can you get a script or can you get a sides, and then you come back with the script, and then it's like, oh, I should have just got it myself because Now
Yeah.
you're more of a hindrance and a help if I have to explain every single
Right.
thing. But if you understand what I do, if you see, like one of the things we do, which we'll talk about later, but we create like call sheets. And now that you
Mm.
see how hard it is to create a call sheet, I had someone
Shut
come
up.
up to me at wrap at like midnight, and the schedule had whole change for tomorrow, and was like, "Hey, Alicia, I just want to talk to you about my future goals. I graduated from FAMU." And I said, I gave her like the look of death. Like, if you knew how hard this call sheet was and what I was doing, you wouldn't approach me with that
Not right
at
now.
rap. Not right
Mm-mm.
now,
Mm-mm.
no.
Mm-mm.
But because she
No.
didn't know, she didn't understand my
Yeah.
plight. She didn't understand how hard I was working. But when you understand that, you're gonna approach people differently because you
Very
understand
differently.
the things that they're going through. And
Yeah.
that's what makes you a better producer, when you actually internalize and you can like sympathize, empathize
Yeah.
with the crew because you
Yeah.
know been there.
And I would say it makes you just a better, and this is not just for TV and film. I don't want
Right.
anyone listening to this interview thinking like this is a conversation that is unique to this particular industry, because I think the things that you're saying is actually what makes us better leaders in general, right?
Mm-hmm.
In any industry, like if you understand what the people that are working jobs under you are doing and how they do them and why they're doing them, it's going to make you a more effective leader, and make you articulate your concerns and the needs better and to advocate for them better and all of those
Mm-hmm.
things. One of the things, and we hinted to this a little bit earlier, one of the things that was very eye opening for me in this industry are the hours. The hours are crazy. And I don't think people understand that. Like, I think from the outside looking in, we think of this like glamorous production, set life, and all of the things because we see the outcome, we see the
Mm-hmm.
finished product. But the truth is, the hours can sometimes, and you talked about this when we were talking about negotiations and contracts, the hours can sometimes be absurd. It is not
Mm-hmm.
uncommon to work 12-hour days, days in a row, if not more than 12 hours sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
days in a row. Um, why do things take so Madam UPM? Why are we on 12-hour days? Why is it so much?
Oh my gosh, if I had that answer for sure, I would be like be a gold mine, because it
Yes.
doesn't have to. I think a producer once said to me when I was a trainee, the work expands for the time allowed it. And
Ooh.
because the shows,
Oh,
yes, that's what, and he said this to me in 2007, and I still remember it.
no. That hit me. That hit me in my gut, and I'm gonna tell you why. As
Mhm.
a true procrastinator,
Ah,
okay?
yes.
As an absolute procrastinator, if you give me 3 weeks to do a task,
You're
it's
gonna
gonna
wait
take
till the
me
week.
3 weeks to do that
Hmm.
task. If
Yep.
you say this is due in 8 hours, I'll have it in 8 hours. You are
Hmm.
so right. You are so
Yeah.
right. You are so right.
and
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 I think
that's
another
why.
yeah, and I think another example of that is Mr. Tyler Perry.
Hmm.
Because I love him or hate him, and I know you've worked on many shows over at Tyler Perry Studios, but when they shoot a project,
That's it.
record time, as
Yeah.
compared to other productions where we might be shooting one episode for a couple or two episodes in what 2 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks,
Mhm.
and that honey, in 2 or 3 weeks we shot a whole movie, we shot a whole
Yeah.
season,
Yeah.
at TPS.
Yeah.
So you're
It,
right, I get it.
you're right, because Land of the Lost, one of the biggest budget movies I did, I think it was like a 200 million movie, but we had one scene over 11 days, like
Mhm.
one scene.
One scene.
And a Tyler Perry movie would have been done like 5 days prior. So yeah, it's definitely
Yeah,
like,
it doesn't
because the
have to take
budget
this
is,
long.
it doesn't have to take
Mhm,
that long, but because we know we have 12 hours, they take the 12 hours, and whatever prep goes into it. If when you're talking to the DP and the director and they have outlined, oh, this scene is going to take me 3 hours because I want this many cameras, that's what's in their mind. And so if they get
mhm.
it done earlier, then it's great. But some crew, this is what I found in LA, not too much here because I've done a lot of Tyler Perry, like you said, But in LA, when we looked like we were going to be done early, like say it's like lunchtime and we had one more scene to do, some crew would slow down because they knew that the
Mm,
producers would add the DP. Actually, the DP is the one that, makes us go faster, makes us go slow. So the DP would slow down a little bit so that we didn't get anything else added, because it's like you don't get rewarded for finishing early, you get more work.
mhm.
So on some shows, and so if you're about to be
Yeah.
at a 10-hour day or 8-hour day, they don't just say let's go home. They're trying to figure out what else we can
How
do
we can
within the
add more.
constraints of where we are, right? So some people slow down. So that's why, like I said, the work expands for the time allotted. When you know you have 12 hours, but then when
Mhm.
I did a post about this, like martini, but then at the end of the night when it's martini, that people move the fastest
Yes. But
that
you know
they
what?
do,
I
because
saw that post too. I saw that post and I was like, "Ooh, I'm gonna make a martini." And then on the last question, I'm gonna whip it out, and I forgot my martini.
oh,
So I forgot my martini. I forgot to do it. You just reminded me. I was like, "Ooh, I'm gonna have a shaker up here. I'm just gonna shake for the last question." I just remember that. Okay.
that would have been
But
funny.
no, you're so right. You're so right.
Yeah.
Well, as a therapist, I'm someone who with a therapeutic background, I'm always thinking about balance, no matter what position I'm working on set, whether it is as an intimacy coordinator or just doing mental health or sensitivity for folks. I always have that therapist hat on, and one of the things that really does has always concerned me being on set is the number of hours and how in the hell people
Mhm.
maintain adequate relationships outside of set, because it has got to be really really difficult to
Yeah.
maintain intimate relationships, love relationship, being partnered with someone in this industry because of those hours. When you think about it, let's say it's not a 12-hour day back to back, let's say it's a 12, a 14, a 16, a 12, an 8, a 10, and that's one week. When I come home, I have no time for anyone else.
Hmm.
I have no time for
Hmm.
relationship. I hope my kids have figured out how to do homework on their own, because I don't have any more brain cells left. How do people, and I kind of know the answer to this. I'm just asking you, like how do people maintain relationships in this type of environment?
Whew. It's actually super hard. I've been fortunate that I met my husband before, like in college. So
Mhm.
like he kind of saw the evolution and
Yeah.
saw me progress, whereas it was more of like, oh, I'm proud of where you are. But it's still rough too. Like it's still
Yeah.
like I do the drop-offs, he did the pickups. And then he did the bed, the bathing at night with the kids, and
Yeah.
then I come in and they're sleeping. Sometimes I'd be like trying to wake them up when they were little, not like now. I'd be like, oh, okay, I gotta get a little snuggle, like because like you said, like it's a lot.
What's that?
But I do have so many friends that are single for that reason, because either
Yeah.
they just can't, people just don't understand the lifestyle, and they just don't have time
They don't.
to date. And I feel like for me, like when I'm on because I devote so
Yep.
much. But then when I'm off, I am like off. Like I'm not
Yeah.
one of those people that like, oh, let's hang out after work and do, hang out after work. Like you don't want to go home. But a lot of people do like to hang out on the set
Yeah.
Friday night, and I'm like, you not
Yeah.
tired? Like
Yeah.
I like want my peace. I want my relaxation. I think people
Mhm.
should do massages and things like that regularly, just
Mhm.
because at the end of the day, like we're seeing with the strike, if you go down because you're sick, they're not
Yes.
gonna stop and like, wave a
Nope.
red flag and say, let's stop shooting, let's stop, let's put,
Nope.
no. The show's
The
gonna
show
go
will
on.
go on.
The show will go on. And I
It will
learned
go
it kind
on.
of early on when I was a server at Cheesecake Factory in college. And I think it was a Saturday and I've just been running, and I came to work and it was like 4 or 5 and I was working on the patio and I hadn't had much to eat. Maybe I had breakfast, but I was really like fatigued, I guess, because I was talking to my table and I was like, the specials are, and then I literally like like I was about to pass out on them. They were like, "Are you
Oh
about to
my
fall?"
gosh.
I know. And then fortunately, I still remember them. They were like a EMT and firefighter. So they're like, get her some Coke. She needs some sugar. Like I hadn't eaten because I was just running on the go. And so ever since then, like
Mhm.
before the industry, it's like, nope, I'm gonna sit down and take my lunch break and I'm gonna
Mhm.
eat. I'm gonna like focus on me. Like
Yeah.
I'm not gonna like stand up and eat at Crafty because one of the first things someone told me when I
Mhm.
got an industry, there was like, don't eat donuts. Like a lot of people eat donuts or all this stuff for breakfast at Crafty because they always want to be on the go. A lot of ADs like, so have a proper breakfast. So every time I see a donut, I do not eat it because I'm like, that's what they were talking about. And people just eat that as their breakfast because they don't have
Yeah.
time. I'm like, nope, I'm going to take 10 minutes, if that, and eat some egg whites and eat properly because I have to take care of myself. And I don't
Yeah.
want to be ever feeling like I'm, burnt thin. But I've had those nights where it's like, ooh, like I was pregnant on Cobra Kai. I was like 7 months pregnant and we were shooting to like 18-hour a day on a Monday.
Mm.
On a
Oh
Monday.
my
So
god.
like that
Oh
can
my
only
god.
show you. So I don't know if people know I was pregnant at that time, but I like lay down because there's nothing I could do. I couldn't make a call time. I was a second AD because we
Right.
didn't know what time we were gonna wrap. I said, I'm taking a nap. I like laid down and took a nap because I knew that I needed to do that for me and my baby because I did not want to drive
Yeah.
home later and be too tired. And I just like
Yeah.
nowadays with COVID, I think people understand it now more. Like everyone's
Yeah.
more conscious.
Yeah.
But that was before COVID. You just had to like kind of say, nope, I need to do this. I need to do this for myself because
Yeah.
yeah, if not, you'll get burnt out and it's like
Yeah.
not fun, and that suffers with your relationship. So I'm working on that still,
Absolutely. Yeah,
because
we all are. We
yeah,
all
still
are.
have
We
to
have
work on that.
to we have to find opportunities to prioritize our own health and well-being,
Mhm.
our own mental health because and especially things like health that aren't and mental health that aren't outwardly observable. We can be stressed out, but that's kind of an internal thing, right? We can
Yeah.
keep it to ourselves. If we don't verbalize it, no one would ever know. If we're sick, and not just, COVID or with any other thing. Sometimes there were outward symptoms, and then sometimes people were asymptomatic. But if we don't feel well, if we are fatigued, if we are just not in a good space, we have to be able to advocate for ourselves, sit ourselves down, say, "Ooh, I need a nap," or "You know what? My mind is not clear. I've got, 50,000 things. I need a mental health break." Like we have to be able to say those things. Otherwise, um we're going to face plant into somebody's cheesecake.
Mhm. Exactly. I see what you did there.
We're going to face plant right into somebody's cheesecake.
Right.
One other thing I wanted to ask you too, because this, and it's kind of critical to where we are right now. Um, a lot of people are going into this season where we're striking, we're not working, or, we're coming up off of COVID and realizing like I have particular goals. I have, whether it's a show that I want to produce myself or something that I've been working on, or it's on pause right now because of the strikes, or um, I've proposed this, put it in my employer's hand, and now I'm waiting on them to tell me whether or not we can greenlight this or not. How do you keep yourself motivated to keep going and keep pursuing that thing when there's either resistance or a delay, or you don't necessarily have the funding? Like
Mm.
so many of us are sitting on ideas or waiting on someone else to greenlight an idea, or maybe this has happened to me where I had a show that I was hosting or in principal talent for, and it was ready to go, and then the network execs that had approved it before left and went to another network, or
Mm-hmm.
the leadership at the company changed, switched over, and now we're going in a new direction. So even though we were
Mm-hmm.
going to do this, now we're not. That
Mm-hmm.
happens more times than we think, but it doesn't take away from like the heartbreak of, this was a really good idea. I was really wanting to do this. I'm really, I really, this is still a good idea. What can I do
Right.
now? Like, how do you keep going?
You know, it's tough because it does mess with your mental, and I can't say that
Mhm.
I'm not one that hasn't had that happen. I've had things pulled up from underneath me. when, like you said, and it may not have been you, somebody left, but they had promised me, like, oh, you're going to be, because of what you did here. And then
Yeah.
they left, and it was just like, but they still talk to me, but I still didn't get that opportunity anymore because they
Right.
were gone. But
Right.
I always say that we have to, like, you are your own biggest supporter. So it's like,
Mhm.
if you think you can't or you think you can, either way, you're right, because it's all
Mm.
about what you
Ooh.
think. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
It's all about
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that idea that you have, don't stall on it, because guess what? There's somebody that's gonna come and try to, like, like, do their own idea that's similar. And I'm saying this for
Mhm.
myself as well, because
Yeah. Yeah.
we're
Yeah.
more powerful than we actually believe we are. Sometimes it
Mhm.
takes other people to notice how powerful that idea is, or how for
Yeah.
someone to say, like, oh, like, you're great. Like, I just spoke at a college yesterday, and I'm very, like, to me, what I've done is great, but I know I could do so much more. So I'm not like,
Mhm.
hey, look at me. And they're like,
Yeah.
how are you so humble? Like, look at all the stuff you've done. Like, you're like this black queen that's doing all this stuff, and you're doing this and that. And I'm like, yeah, you know what? Thank you for that. But, like, it's just what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
Like, I'm
Yeah.
just trying to get to somewhere else. And it's not just about
Right.
me, it's about others around me. It's about what impact will this make that I'm trying to do. So when we realize, and I said, I
Mhm.
think to him, I said, I think you may have helped me, like, out of the slump of the strike, because it's like,
Yeah.
when I realize what the overall goal and who it's going to affect, that's going to be my purpose. It's not just about me to, like, showcase my brand, but
Mhm.
it's affecting people like you who don't realize that
Yeah.
people like me are out there. And
Yes.
that makes you want to do more. So I think once we get out of our own way, and that's the thing I've heard, sometimes we are in our own way. And one of my
Thousand.
producers said, sometimes you are, like, almost at the top, right? You're almost at where you want to go, but you give up because it got too hard. So that's one of the
Mhm.
questions I ask. Like, did you fail or did you quit? So sometimes we quit right before our blessings, but we never get to that blessing because we quit
Mhm.
too close
Too
to be
soon.
in the end.
Mhm.
And so yeah, we quit too soon. So that's my thing. It's like, I think we just need to keep going. We can't,
Keep
and the other
going.
thing is, we can't wait on other people to do stuff for us, right? We can't wait for a seat at the table. Like Kanye said, I you can be the table, right? Like, I don't need your
Mhm.
seat. I can be the table, because you have to
Right.
be confident in what you bring. And that's how
Yes.
I knew that I could be a UPM, even though I'm like, I don't see it. People are like, well, how did you know you could do it
Right.
if you didn't see it? I'm like, because I know who I am. I don't have to see you doing it to know that I can do it. You know what I'm saying? So that's the
Mhm.
thing. We have to know who you are as a
Yes.
person, and it's not about anybody else. So it's just that confidence level.
Now I see very clearly right now how AD team workshops came to be. Just with that. Let's talk about the workshops, because what you're dropping today, everything that you just said, I imagine I will get that and more by taking those workshops. If this is a career path, even if I don't know exactly what I want to do or where I want to go and what my last step will be, this is an amazing opportunity for anybody wanting to get into film and television, especially right now,
Mhm.
because there is so much downtime for folks. They're not working. I can't think of a better time to build on your skill set, to learn more about these positions, and to kind of try and develop some of those skills so that when you can get that job, when you are on set, you're not walking around trying to learn on the fly. You are the key to a lot of this information and helping people succeed on set. So let's talk about AD Team Workshop.
Yes, thank you so much. So the Assistant Directors Team Workshop, also known as AD Team Workshop, I started it 8 years ago next month. And I
Mhm.
mainly started it, like I said earlier, because I could never hire the same people twice. It was a little
Mm.
selfish of me. I didn't know it was going to be like this big thing. It was more like for me to get PAs that are trained, and therefore I knew that they knew something, so that when we're
Mhm.
working, they would be more of a help than a hindrance, and I wouldn't have to explain every single detail. Because a lot of times, like Eminem's song, you only get one shot. Do not miss your chance to blow, because
Mhm.
opportunity
Mhm.
comes once in a life. So I didn't want people to miss the opportunity. So we believe that preparation first, which is with us, and then your opportunity next. Some people try to put the cart before the horse. And you
Mhm.
can't do that because you get that opportunity 9 times out of 10. If you don't know what you're doing, you're not going to get called back. You won't hear that you
Mm.
did a bad job. You just won't get called back for the
Wouldn't be called
next
back.
job because that's our
Yeah.
industry. We don't tell you when you're doing good and we don't tell you when you're doing bad. So you just got to do it and do it. And then the more you get called, that's how you know you did a good job.
Yeah.
And so I teach like, I started with 2 days. Let me explain that. I started with a 2 day class, which we're going back to at the end of August. I'm going to have a 2 day
Mhm.
in person class. But I literally teach everything that you need to know to be a second AD, which is what I was for a very long time, from creating the call sheets. And the call sheet is like your newspaper on set. It's the who, the what, the when, the where, as it pertains to filming. So everything you need to know is on that call sheet. So we also provide all the supplemental documents. We go over schedules, actor day out of days, which we call dudes, one liners, shooting schedules, all the terminology that you will see. So you may hear someone say, I need an apple box on set. If you do not take my class or if you're green, you will be looking for a box shaped like an apple, but that is not what an apple box is. So we teach you all the terminology, we teach you radio etiquette. And if you have to go to the bathroom, you don't say on the radio, I have to go to the bathroom. You say, I have to go 10-1. That's a code. And so it's just different jargons to let us know,
Mhm.
just like in corporate, like I know you've been here before if you write your emails a certain way, or if
Right.
I know you understand what we're doing. And then on the second day, we teach production reports because yes, the call sheet tells us what we want to happen. Production reports tell us what actually happened. So that's where the
Mhm.
money involved is. We talk about meal penalties, we talk about NDBs, we create SAG Exhibit Gs, which for Tiffany is how she gets paid. It's her time card. So the actors want those to be accurate. So we go over the
Yes.
statuses on those, and how to notate any stunt adjustments, all the things, literally, and background breakdowns, how to work with background, and we also finish it up with, like I said, force calls, talk about the union, everybody's force calls, and because everyone has different force calls and the
Yeah.
penalties for them. And then we also go over set etiquette, like what you shouldn't do on set, like don't approach me at midnight asking me about your future plans. No,
Don't
don't do
do
that.
it.
Don't do it.
Don't do it. Don't
And
just
interview
don't do it.
tips. So yeah, we just go through so much. And lately we've been doing virtual. So we've broken up the classes to like a film audit. I will audit your resume. So we can do that now for you because our resumes do not look like corporate resumes. They do not have five,
Yeah.
10 bullet points to explain the position. It's just
Yeah.
different. So yeah, it's just been amazing. We've had people come from Canada, from Minnesota, from all over to take the class. And it's like I'm like, wow. And it's like you said, it doesn't have to be someone that's already in the industry. I've had a person who was turning 50 and she said it was on her bucket list to like learn something new. She's an insurance adjuster. And after my class,
Wow.
she was like, I think I want to do my skill sets would work great in being background casting because that's she
Mhm.
understood the job after the class because we talk about all the jobs, all
Mhm.
the crew positions, and she's like, I think that's where I'm going to focus my attention on. And so I've had people come and be buyers, ads, of course, producers, independent producers, and I know you guys think
Amazing.
like when you do non-union shows, like we could just do it anyways. Yeah, that's true, but the non-union crew still wants to be treated like a union crew. So they still
Absolutely.
want you to know the union laws for lunches, etc. So in short, our class is amazing, not just because I'm saying it, but because I'm the teacher for it. And I, like you said, I
Yeah.
teach from my experience, not from what I think, but from what I know has been a
Yeah.
proven and effective manner.
And I think it's key to point out too that you are the instructor. It's not like you're getting this like secondhand experience
Right.
from someone that you taught. You are it, and the questions come directly to you, and you can actually physically, tangibly show them like this is how this is done, so that you're getting you're getting the training from top tier, not just the instructor, but someone who is boots on the ground and does this work. So it's super important to me. And it's to anyone who works in this industry that people are just properly trained and they know. I was lucky enough to become credentialed in intimacy work through someone who's been in this business for a very long time. And it wasn't just, oh, just shadow me for a couple of days and I'm going to show you. No, we went through all the things that you're saying, crew terminology, what this means, how to properly fill out a timesheet, just all the things that people just assume, oh, I'll just learn it on the job. No, you won't, because you won't have that job for long. And if you do, you won't be asked back. And the
Mhm.
goal really is for any job that we do, because our jobs can only be very short. Like if we're working a show that is filming for about 8 weeks, that's it, that is the job,
Mhm.
and we're done. So we need to do a good job while we're there, and you don't have a lot of time to learn on the job. You need to
Right.
come into the job already knowing. And so that's why these workshops are important, because it teaches them the skills that they need to know going into the job, so that when they get there, they can hit the ground running and excel. I'm so proud of you and this work that you're
Oh,
doing,
thank
and
you.
getting people together, getting the girls together. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you. Thank you so much.
No, we need that. And we need to see, I think, you know, I love that it's you. I love that it's
Oh,
you. And seeing brown faces doing big things just makes my heart, skip a beat. This is wonderful, and so many more people need to know about the work that you do, especially, you're based here in Atlanta, but certainly this is a skill that is transferable no matter what market you're in. But there's a lot of work here in Atlanta, and I know a lot of people can really benefit from what you're laying down. So, Alicia, you are a true gem. I can't thank you enough
oh,
for dropping
thank,
by today.
oh,
And
thank
if
you so
you're
much. Oh, I'm sorry to cut you off. I just wanted
no,
to
go
add
ahead.
when I'm glad that you brought the point up that I am the instructor, that that you caught
Yes.
that, because a lot of people have like classes not to, and it's not them. And my producer once
Yeah.
said to me, he was like, Alicia, one day you're gonna get too big and you're gonna have to hire someone else to teach your class. And I was like, then it won't be the same class. So I'll never get too big,
Mhm.
because I don't feel like, yeah, I have the curriculum planned out, but what makes it extra special is that I'm telling you from my experience
Yeah.
along the way. And so that's what, like, one kid called me, and after he found out that, he's like, you're going to be there? Like, I was like, yeah. He was like, after you told me that, I literally dropped my credit card and paid. I was just like,
Yeah.
you didn't think that I would be there? Like,
Yeah.
I'm the face of
No,
everything, but
but listen, that's not
that's
what the girlies are doing right
that's
now. They create
crazy.
their little video conference, they pre-record. And I'm not saying that you won't do this later, but all I'm saying is what typically happens in these master classes, which this is what this workshop is, a bit of a master class. They pre-record it, have people tune in at a set time, or they download it on at their leisure, watch it. Maybe we have a live where you can come in and drop in for office hours and I'll answer your questions. But no, they're not doing this thing live. They don't
Wow.
under Yeah, they don't. So what you have here, if you have the opportunity to take the workshop, for those in the back listening, if you have the opportunity to take this workshop, you need to jump on it while she's still doing it the way that she's doing it, because this is not something that the girlies do anymore. Okay? You are getting top tier treatment, and she has the audacity to do this class live because she's not afraid of the questions that are going to come at her. She
No,
is very much prepared to answer anything that you could throw at her on the fly, because she's been there, she's done that, and she's doing that.
absolutely. Thank
Okay.
you.
Did. Okay. I believe in you.
Oh,
I
I
believe in
believe in
you.
you too,
I
too.
believe
Thank
in you. And I'm so
you.
excited. I'm so excited for everything that you're doing. Please keep us posted on the workshops. We're happy to mention them any chance we get. So if ever you need us to just let the people know there's something new coming down the pipe, we are happy to do that. And anybody that wants to break into TV and film, anybody that wants to learn what they can do, what their skills can, how their skills might be utilized in the TV and film industry, please drop a line over at adteamworkshop.com. Click the link. We're going to put a link in the show notes of this show so that it'll be easy for folks. But adteamworkshop.com, and then also on Instagram at AD Workshop, Alicia drops a gem every single week. I feel like you do it more than once a week,
I
right?
know. I,
Yeah.
I do a little bit more than once a week, but at
Yeah.
least once a
Yeah.
week. Yeah.
At least once a week. At least once a week. So yes, Alicia, thank you so much for being part of the program.
Thank you so much for having me on Intimate Conversations with Dr. Tiff. I really
It's
like, and
intimate details. Thank
intimate
you.
details. Okay, It's the edit. You're gonna have to edit that. Okay. So
I'm not editing anything out. No, we are not fixing that in post, ma'am. You are not the UPM on this show, okay? We don't have the budget for that. We don't have the budget for post production.
I know all this is gonna be edited. I'm not even worried.
I'm
But
telling you it's not. I'm telling you it's not.
oh
I'm
my
telling you
gosh.
it's not.
Okay.
Ah,
Well,
but no, thank you for being part of Intimate Details with Dr. Tiff and Intimate Conversations with Dr. Tiff, okay?
okay, because
Both
we
of
had a
them. Both of them go work.
conversation, right? So like I just got like tied up in the moment because it was some good
It's quite all
conversation.
right. It's quite all right. For you out there listening, thank you so much for joining us today. You remember you can listen to Intimate Details with Dr. Tiff on all the podcasting platforms, but you can watch Intimate Details with Dr. Tiff on Spotify on Wednesdays, on YouTube on Thursdays. We are so thankful for all of the questions that you guys sent in for Ask Dr. Tiff. We're thankful for just you continuing to rock with us. Please continue to like, comment, share, subscribe, share this podcast with anyone that you know of, especially this episode, anyone that you know of that might be a young person just kind of trying to figure it all out, maybe wants to get into television and film, who has questions, because Alicia is the truth, okay? She is the truth. And we are so lucky to have had her. And we are so thankful and lucky to have you being a part of this intimate conversation. Okay. So we will see you guys next week. Thank you again for listening. Ciao.
Bye.